Welcome back to the second part in this series where I see if I can beat Final Fantasy VII using a class system. On the last episode we had just narrowly escaped Midgar with our lives intact, and we are ready to explore the open world of Final Fantasy VII and truly get this adventure going. So, time to pick our party, and I've gone with Bart, Green and Cloud, as these three seem to be the strongest at the moment, and you can see that by their stats. Cloud obviously we have to use all the time, and he's got great strength, great magic, really important character, and then Bart just has super high vitality. I also want to level up his cover materia so he can defend our teammates more often, and I'm also in love with him, so obviously I want to use him as much as possible. And then we have Green here, who has the highest magic stat and can deal AoE magic damage, which is very important. But do not fear, we will still be using Tofu and Steve whenever we see possible. I just want to start off with these guys because I'm enjoying using them, and Red is new. Nope. Who's Red? Not Red, Green. Green is new. So I want to test out what he can do, and Bart is my boyfriend, you know. I'm madly in love with him, and I feel like the more he protects me, the more fond he grows towards me. So you can see there he just like jumped in front of the way, and he didn't do that for Green, so he clearly has some sort of fondness towards Claude. And I think that's very sweet. Oh yeah, we had a guard source stolen, and I was like, not today. You are not taking any of my items, Mr. Bandit.
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
Yeah, I think I've got the all materia on Cure instead for Green at the moment. But when we have two all materias for Green, we can put one on black magic and one on white magic and just feel a lot more powerful. So yeah, there is a little battle to just show you where we're at, as it's been a while. And here we are in Calm. It's time to buy the all-important Earth materia, which we can only equip to Green at the moment, but that's very handy. And also Heal, which we can use for Bart and Steve. And I thought about buying two, but I was like, Steve is eventually not going to be with us because of reasons. There's some reasons why Steve might not be with us, so I'm not going to bother buying two because eventually Steve won't be able to use their magic anymore. Anyway, after buying some all-important weapons and armor, it's time to learn a little bit more about Sephiroth. And it turns out Claude used to be a soldier with Sephiroth, and the two of them were even friends, or teacher and student, one might say. And we've got some very iconic scenes to come in this next section, and this is where the game truly begins for me. And this is also where Final Fantasy VII Rebirth begins, which is quite funny because this game has just come out from the recording of this video. And I'm going to use this time to talk about it a bit because I haven't played it, but I have been watching gameplay footage of it, and it's very, very entertaining. But I will say, I feel like the magic of this scene is kind of lost in the remake. And I'm going to explain why. I know this is going a little bit off tangent, but I need somewhere to talk about it, and I feel like this is the best place. When looking at the Nibelheim incident in the original game, you cannot really see the characters' emotions due to the blocky graphics, and you cannot hear their voices due to the limitations of the PS1 and having to have text boxes. This means that the player has to form their own interpretation of how these characters would feel and speak and react to everything that's happening on screen. And when we get to the actual incident in a second, I will go over why I feel like Rebirth kind of failed, and it's mostly due to the characterization of Sephiroth, but we will get there. Before we do that, here is a little fight against a dragon, and this is a perfect example of, once again, the game showing us how powerful Sephiroth is and why we should be afraid of him. And so far, all that we have seen of Sephiroth is that he murdered the president of Shinra and killed a lot of people in the Shinra building, hence all the blood and the craziness, and now we're seeing him one-hit kill this crazy dragon that Cloud can barely even scratch. So, the story goes that Claude and Sephiroth were put on a mission to climb this mountain and figure out what was going wrong with this Mako reactor that was hidden deep in Mount Nibble. And I love these little cutscenes. There's something about this era of games in the PS1 era where everything was just so dark and gloomy, and it reminds me a lot of a game I used to play called Oddworld, Ape's Odyssey, which was also on the PS1, and it uses the same dark blue and green and grey tones that was just so vindicative evocative of the time. Is that the right word? I don't know, I've said it now. But it was just very reminiscent of the time. Let's say that instead. And it's also, again, very steampunk, very post-apocalyptic-esque. And again, I do feel like that's something that's missing in the remake. When we go to Mount Nibble at the beginning of the game, it just doesn't have that same effect, you know? The mountains aren't jutting out in weird, crazy ways. The sky isn't as dark and menacing. And I understand that it's supposed to be like a rebirth. It's supposed to be a retelling of the story that is different and modern. But I just feel like they could have kept some of the same grittiness that the original had. And I don't know. I've not played it. I've just been watching footage. But like what I have seen thus far, as incredible as it looks and how exciting it is just missing what makes this game what it is. And I think it's the horror element that is really missing. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Let's stick to the PS1 version. So Claude and Sephiroth are in the reactor, and then suddenly Sephiroth starts going crazy and slashing everything and is like, was I created this way too? And he's having a bit of a hissy fit because he's learning that he is not human and believes he is now a monster, and it's like, whoa! So then he decides to burn down the town of Nibelheim, and this is Claude's hometown, and he's like, oh my god, scary, scary, don't know what's going on here, don't like it. And then there's fire, and you get this moment. Look at this. This is crazy. There's fire everywhere. Sephiroth's like, bro, you cannot touch me, I am the baddest of baddies, and then he walks into the fire without even getting burned, and it's like, damn, this guy's scary. So he heads back to the reactor in the mountains again for reasons of wanting to take Jenova, who is Sephiroth's mother. I'm not explaining this well, I know, I'm just trying to get through it. But yeah, Tifa's dad dies because Sephiroth kills him, and then Tofu's all like, oh no, Sephiroth, I'm gonna hurt you. And Sephiroth's like, no, you're literally a child who's dressed as a cowgirl, so I'm gonna slice you in half and you're gonna fall down the stairs and somehow not die from this. But that's okay. Claude is here and is like, OMG, can't believe you just did that, that's crazy. And then Claude's like, Sephiroth, you are too crazy, you've been too naughty, and I don't like you. And then we get this iconic moment. Oh god, I love this. This is where I'm going to talk about how the remake failed. Sephiroth is a very monotone character, right? We get that. Like, the Rebirth does that. But I feel like there's a shift in his personality here, where he goes from being super monotone to going absolutely batshit mental. And I don't feel like they got the batshit mental element correct. He still is very monotone even when he's going crazy. And there's not really a big build-up to see his personality change. I wanted to see him go from calm and collected to absolutely off the walls. And I feel like this cutscene does that, you know? We see his facial expressions going quite demented and twisted, and there's a real sense that something has changed and snapped in him, and I feel like the Rebirth just didn't quite capture that, or at least how I had interpreted it. And that is just the unfortunate thing of my interpretation of this game being quite different to what the game developer's interpretation of the game is. And I also feel like Final Fantasy has always been known to create really iconic and memorable scenes that sort of push the limitations of the hardware that they are on, and I think they've lost that. Watching Rebirth, it just feels worse than most other AAA titles in terms of graphic and storytelling, and it's just all the things that Final Fantasy was known for and groundbreaking for no longer exists, so everything just feels kind of empty and a little bit sad in my opinion. I don't know, I recognise of course that this is all coming from a place of nostalgia. When something takes something that's precious to you and morphs it into something new, you're automatically going to be on edge about it and feel a little bit disheartened by it, and it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to speak to exactly what you want it to be, and I accept that, but I'm still going to express my opinions and thoughts about it. And I'm very curious. I want to hear what everybody else has to say about this. So please in the comments, if you've played Rebirth, if you've watched the Nibelheim incident on YouTube or whatever, please let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. I want to know if I'm alone in these thoughts, and let's keep it cute though. Let's not argue, let's not fight, let's not tell each other that we're wrong. We're all entitled to feel the way we want to feel, and I just want to hear from you guys, so let me know. Apologies for the tangent, it is over now. Let's get back to the video. We've learned all this terrible, horrible, dark stuff, so let's just sit back and watch these lovely chocobos do a little dance for us so we can get back into the silly mood again. Yay, look at that. Oh my god, it's shaking its little booty. Go on, chocobo, woo! Woo, yeah. Oh, and it can kick as well. Well done. Yay, I'm so happy. We've received the Choco Mog materia, which we actually can't equip yet as that belongs to Yuffie and we do not have her yet, but it's good to have it. And then we go ahead and buy the Chocobo lore materia, except we actually can't because we've run out of Gil, and Gil is just a massive problem at the moment because we are using every single character. It means we have to buy equipment for every single character and materia for every single character, as we don't swap their materia around, and that's quite frustrating. And it does actually balance itself out towards the end of the game. It's just at these beginning portions that Gil is a massive problem, but don't worry, it isn't a problem for too long. So we just beat up these birds and somersault kick them in the face and steal all of their money until we have enough to buy the Chocobo lore materia. And this doesn't take too long. We only needed 2000 Gil and we get that fairly easily and equip the materia onto Clod. And now we are ready to capture our first and only ever Chocobo in this run, because riding Chocobos is kind of pointless, but it's a cool little gimmick. And here we have this battle against this little Cid and this Chocobo, and I'm like, yo, little Cid, I'm gonna feed your brother to this Chocobo and you're gonna watch it and you're gonna watch him eat it, and then you're gonna be scared. But yeah, while the bird is walking, we're gonna kill the other bird because we don't want to ride that one, we want to ride the cute one. And then we kill the little Cid while the Chocobo is eating the other Cid. And then that's it, we've caught our Chocobo and we can finally get past the Midgarzolum, I believe it's called, this giant snake. And Bart finally learns his level 2 Limit Break Mind Blow, which is incredible. We're getting stronger. And here we are on our little Chocobo friend. And the snake is very quick. And we just about escape him without too much of a problem. And we can finally head into the cave. But then, what's that? Oh my gosh. Once again, we just had a very silly segment of capturing Chocobos and being all cute and funny, and then bam, this game hits you again with don't forget that Sephiroth is a scary ass. The game is just constantly flip-flopping between these two vibes, but we're in the cave now and we pick up the long-range materia, which we cannot equip yet because we don't have Cid. And now we need to run around the forest several times in order to gain our next party member, and there's like a 10% chance that she appears, and I thought it would take a relatively quick amount of time, and it didn't. It took forever, but eventually we do get Yuffie to appear, and we have to beat her in battle. So Clod slices her in half and we all cheer as we have defeated this poor young girl who is lost in the forest. And now it's time for everybody to meet Goofy. Yes, this is Goofy, not to be confused with Donald or anyone else of that franchise, but Goofy is a goofy ass queen and she will be our thief/ninja, so we are just giving her the appropriate material such as Chocomog, Steel and Throw. And then you can see her stats here. She's fairly weak, but she has a good weapon on her. She has some pretty good damage and magic, and also has some high dexterity. So yeah, we're going to use her for a little bit and get used to her playstyle, and having her in the party is very handy simply because she has the steal technique, and the only reason we ever really throw her in our party is so that we can steal stuff. Here you can see we have this battle against these flying dudes. I fought a lot of these in the forest while trying to unlock Goofy, so I'm accustomed to them. They're pretty powerful, they do some good damage, but they also have a very powerful weapon that we can use for Goofy, so I'm making sure to steal one. I'm going to kill every single one of them bar one to make sure that we get the item, and you can see the damage there racks up very quickly, especially when there's 3 of them. But you also get a chance here to see cross slash in action, very powerful limit break which also paralyzes the enemy. And I'm not sure what the statistics are for steal, but I feel like every time we steal in this game it fails quite a lot. So yeah, after we have defeated all of them, I'm making sure to keep one alive so that we can steal their weapon, and it's just not happening. So I'm just making sure everybody is alive. These flying monsters are really good for building up our limit gauges because of how much damage they deal at this early stage, and that's pretty nice. We get this Grand Cross attack which deals damage to everybody. Super powerful stuff. And now Goofy has her limit break, and we've stolen the boomerang, which is the weapon that we wanted for Goofy. It's much stronger than everyone else's weapon at this stage in the game, so very glad we got that. And also perfect timing is we get a limit break for Goofy, so we can see the
Greased lightning!
Yeah, pretty cool attack, and it's dead. Goofy has a boomerang, and they all lived happily ever after. Apart from these flying birds, they did die. They did not live happily ever after. But check out Boomerang. Oh my goodness, 30 attack, which means she's like one of our strongest characters. Moving on with the story now, and we're here in Junon, where Shinra is up to some sneaky stuff, and before we can get to the proper Junon area, we have to save this little girl from a giant sea monster, because Final Fantasy, that's why. And this is a pretty cool fight because we cannot deal close up damage to him, which means we have to rely on someone like Goofy or Bart, and I decided to use Goofy over Bart simply because we've used Bart quite a lot, and I want to experience some Goofy action. And we have everybody's limit break, which is quite nice, and here you can see the power of Choco Mog. It can cause stop on the enemy, which is super handy, but it doesn't work on this guy. And we have Green in the party instead of Bart, because Green can use black magic, and Green can also use white magic, and we need at least one person that can heal us on the team, and Green just does the most. We use Green quite a lot in this early part of the game, because he just does it all, you know, he is a jack of all trades, such as the Red Mage nature. And while I'm talking about the Red Mage, I will let you know that I have actually changed over the W magic skill, which can now be used on Green, as most of you in the comments said that using dual cast or double cast is a inherently Red Mage technique. So Vincent is no longer our W magic holder, it now belongs to Green and our Red Mage, so that's that sorted, and it will give Green a bit more late game potential, which he does actually lack. So yeah, very, very cool. And this fight, I'm using Bolt a lot. I don't know if it's weak against Bolt. It doesn't seem to be, but I was like, it's in the ocean, so it should be weak against lightning, but it's not. This is not a Pokemon. We don't go off of, you know, water being weak to electricity in this game. And he uses this bubble technique, which is very similar to the prism that we saw from Reno. But we've already dealt with it. We know how to deal with it. We just have to attack it with some magic, and then they are freed. And you can see Goofy does some pretty good damage thanks to that boomerang. 105 is really nice. Not as good as our black magic spells, but of course it is free, so it's just free good damage. Goofy is, you know, Goofy is poo-poo.com. That's what Goofy is. Goofy's kind of poo, a really, really terrible character to have in your party because she has like no ties to the story at all. And if you're going through the entire game with Goofy in your party, she adds absolutely nothing to the dialogue. She's just there being like, I'm confused, what's going on, why am I here, I just want to steal materia. So I tend not to use her very often because of that, but she's quite strong at this stage in the game, and you know, it's handy being able to steal stuff, and it's also handy being in the back row and taking less damage, and being able to do damage from a distance is always nice. But what's nicer is winning the fight against the sea monster, and we did that, which is great. So here you can see our levels. Everybody is at 17, which is quite nice. And yeah, happy days. We've killed the sea monster, and we've also got the power wrist, which is a very, very handy item as it gives us plus 10 strength. And here we have this mini game where we have to like give this little girl the kiss of life. There's a lot of mini games in this game, and this is one of the worst ones in my opinion. You literally just have to wait until this bar fills up and then press square to like breathe into her mouth, and then eventually she's like and she's alive, and it's like, yay, well done Claude, you're so good. Yeah, this old man's gonna carry her back to safety while the rest of the party reconsiders putting Claude on the sex offender list. But she has something special to give us, and it just so happens to be the Shiva materia, which we can equip to Tofu when we have access to her. But now it's time to jump up with this lovely dolphin who puts us on this really, really dangerous bit of scaffolding, and we are ready to get into the main city of Junon. And this is quite an iconic moment. It's where we first see the Highwind, which is an airship we will be using later. And I really do love Junon as a place. It feels a lot more bright and vibrant in comparison to Midgar, but most of the towns and cities do have a similar vibe in the sense that you can tell that everywhere is completely run by Shinra. Of course, Midgar has the giant Shinra headquarters sticking out the center, and Junon has this humongous cannon jutting out the side of it. So you can really see that Shinra controls absolutely everything in this world. Yeah, this is like the second example of that, and we're going to see many more throughout the game. There just so happens to be a parade happening here in Junon, and Claude has dressed up as a soldier and is trying to sneak onto a ship in order to gain more information about what is happening with Shinra and what their plans are. And as you can see with this minigame, I'm supposed to stay in line with these other soldiers, and I do absolutely terribly, gaining myself the worst possible prize for this minigame, which is just like a grenade, which is very, very useless. So we also have this other minigame here where we need to impress Rufus, the president of Shinra, and I actually want to do terribly in this one because of the second place prize that is available is much more desirable to me in this run than the first place prize. So I'm just doing things absolutely terribly wrong. Okay, who's ready for the big finish? Here we go, it's time to impress him. Everybody do your special. Yes, give us nothing, Claude. I mean, this guy seemed to find it funny. And hey, Rufus says he's very entertained, so clearly we did a good enough job, and we get our special prize, the HP Plus materia, which is very, very nice. We can give that to either Bart or Tofu, and here we are on the boat, and it appears that there just so happens to be an intruder, so we're like, oh gosh, we've been caught. But we get all of the gang together and realise that everybody is here, so if we're not the intruder, then who could it be?
I don't know, Jeff.
We're all pondering over who it could possibly be, and the only answer that we can concur is that it is none other than... And that's very, very scary. We're about to have our first encounter with him. So we go ahead and form a party of Claude, Tofu and Green. Green is obviously going to be our white mage, and then I use Tofu simply because we have some really good equipment to give her. A new glove and the power wrist increases her strength exponentially, and we can also give her the HP plus and Shiva materia. So Tofu's looking really strong now. She's got 34 strength, 65 attack. When you compare this to somebody like Green and Claude, you can see that she now has the highest strength of all of our characters, which is exactly where the monk should be. We remember to grab the ore materia before heading into the engine room where this happens. Okay, work.
Okay, work.
Anyway, here's Sephiroth. He has emerged from under the ground, and Claude's like, how dare you? We were friends. And then Sephiroth's like, I don't know who the f you are.
What's your profanity?
Sorry about it. And he runs away and leaves behind a piece of Jenova, which we are going to fight. And this is the first of many Jenova fights. Sephiroth, instead of actually fighting him, whenever we see him, he's like, nope, just fight a bit of my alien mother instead. Like, I don't know why he's leaving behind pieces of her for us to defeat, but it's a thing. And here you can see we are now using Shiva, which is one of the most iconic summons in the series, doing her cool little ice attack. It does about 300 damage, which is nothing crazy, but still cool that we have it. And you can see Quake here from Green does about 150, so we're looking relatively strong, I suppose. Stop comes out, which is quite a huge hindrance to our party, but luckily it misses, so we don't have to worry about that for now. And we're just going to use our most powerful spells from Green and Claude and just punch them with Tofu. Sorry, I will get used to that. It's Tofu, Green and Claude, alright? We're using Tofu to murder this alien queen. And if you look at the damage from Green there, he clearly is a lot weaker than the rest of us. So he really does have to rely on magic to do anything at this stage. And I did put him in the back row simply because that felt more mage-like, but maybe if I moved him forward we could have done a bit more damage. But it's nice to have him in the back so that he can survive a bit longer and heal us up, because if Green dies we do feel a little bit, you know, empty. And as you can see now, Tofu has her limit break, which is incredible, one of my favorites in the game. I did try to get a yeah, but I didn't, so we're just going to see the regular attacks from her. But it's cool, you just basically get to use 2 attacks in one, which is always very, very nice. Can anybody explain to me why Sephiroth leaves behind pieces of his mum for us to defeat? I've never quite understood why he does that, or why he has these pieces of Jenova. And also we've seen what Jenova looks like. It's just like an alien lady. So like, what is this that we're fighting? This is like Jenova Rebirth or something crazy like that. And I'm just like, what actually is it? Is it just like an experiment that Sephiroth has been playing with that has Jenova cells in it? I don't really know, but it's definitely some of the cooler enemy designs in this game. Like every single Jenova fight is like this grotesque monster that has like, you know, giant crooked limbs and like creepy gory looking textures on it, and I do kind of love it. It's one of the more memorable things about this game is just all the Jenova fights, and we're getting to see a lot of limit breaks here, which is always fun. And I feel like the limit breaks start to slow down towards the end of the game, simply because the damaging scaling in this game just does not add up. It feels like towards the beginning of the game you're taking loads of damage and everything feels balanced, and I don't grind very much for levels, but towards the end of the game nothing does very much damage to me. Like everything seems to just stay at a very, very low number, and the fights definitely become a lot easier as time goes on. So that is definitely one of the shortcomings of this game, is that the balancing is just like not quite there. They started off really well and then it just kind of gets too easy. In my opinion anyway. Some people may struggle with it, but I personally did not. And Claude even got stopped and couldn't move, but that was not enough to prevent us from winning the battle, thanks to Green and his lovely black magic techniques. And here you can see our levels. Tofu is a little bit far behind because we haven't been using her very much, but that's okay, we're going to use her a bit more now. And we pick up the Ifrit materia, which we can immediately give to Green, and as you can see, his materia slots are all full. He uses a lot of materia at the moment, but finally we've arrived at the Costa del Sol, where we can have a very well-deserved break from all the crazy drama, and we get this cute little scene of our party bonding, and Steve is really trying it with our boyfriend and saying that he looks cute in his sailor outfit, and it's like, whoa, hold up a minute, Steve, you keep in your lane, alright? Bart is mine, not yours. And Tofu decides to get involved and say that he should keep it as pajamas, and we get an option here that says, I guess, or keep your mind on Sephiroth, but all I really want to say is keep your hands to yourself, you pieces of shit.
Watch your profanity.
Bart is mine, and he only wears that sailor outfit for me and nobody else. So yeah, sorry, I got a little bit heated there, but it's time to continue on the quest as we head to Mount Corral to figure out more about what Shinra is up to and find out where Sephiroth is and all that lovely good stuff. So we have this little fight here where I just want to show you where our power is at. We are still using Green and Tofu because I just like these guys at the moment. They feel pretty strong in comparison to our other party members, and these guys do a lot of damage. 200 each, and they seem to be bullying Claude at the moment, and I'm like, okay, surely all four of them won't go for Claude, but I guess it's called Spiky Hell, and Claude has spiky hair, so they were like, get that spiky hair out of here. And they do that, and we have our first KO of the game. Like, Claude is just dead, but luckily we have life from Green, and that's pretty good. We can use Revive, and Tofu also has her limit break, so hopefully that will do some damage, but I did not expect for somebody to die in that moment, and I don't really know what we could have done to prevent that, to be honest, because they all just decided to bully him. But fear not, Tofu is here to kick some ass, and kick some ass she does. And now there's only one fish left, and we can just hurry up and murder it. But of course we're going to use Green to heal us all back up. And yeah, that's pretty much where we're at with everybody's strength. Feeling pretty good, but we can't get too comfortable because things like that can happen, and we could get very overwhelmed easily given the wrong battle, so we must keep our wits about us. While venturing through Mount Corral, we learn Blade Beam for Claude, and we also level up Fire for Green. So now we have some level 2 black magic skills. We're feeling pretty comfortable, and there's apparently an item here, and I'm just looking for it, and then this happens. Excuse me, ma'am? Could I get through, please? Oh, are you okay, sir? I'd just like to get the item that's in your fridge. Could you move? Could you move, please? Please, thank you. Oh my god. And now Claude is stuck. I'm actually moving the joystick and nothing's happening, and I'm like, oh my god, have I just broken the game? But eventually it just fixes itself. But yeah, this is it's an old game, that's for sure. And now it is time to venture to the Gold Saucer, but not before we learn a little bit of a backstory about Bart. And this is the emotional breakthrough I've been waiting for. I need to know more about the man I'm going to marry, and he tells us a bit bit about his troublesome past. And it's something to do with him living in a tiny little mining town with his ex-boyfriend dying, and then it's like, whoa, okay, why are we bringing up your ex? Clearly you're not over him, but I'm gonna brush it aside. I'm sure we won't be seeing much of him anytime soon. And then like his village burns down or whatever, and I'm like, oh my god, so sad, that must have been so hard for you. Blah blah blah, more trauma, and then wow, look at the pretty lights, oh my god, we're at the gold saucer, everything is so nice and happy, and I'm having a great time. So you can tell me about your traumatic past a bit later, Bart, but for now I want to go have some fun at the gold saucer. And I freaking love this place. Like, look at this FMV. Like, imagine if a place like this actually existed. It's like Las Vegas on steroids. Everyone lives on these giant mushrooms and there's just lights and crazy fun entertainment everywhere. And it is just pretty spectacular. So once we arrive into Gold Saucer, we are greeted by this fortune teller named Cait, or other people pronounce it as Cait she, but that's too hard for me. I don't really know what it's called, so I'm just going to call him Caitlin because that is just much easier to say. So Caitlin just decides to follow us and join our party. He's weird, Claude. Don't let him come. I'm coming with you no matter what you say. Please don't walk inside me. Please don't walk inside me. No! Okay, so he's now part of our party, but that's cool. We now have our status mage and we can finally equip poison and enemy skill onto this guy, and that's really good. Enemy skill is incredibly powerful, and you can see by his stats here, he's got some good HP and MP, but the rest of his stats are kind of mediocre. But enemy skill kind of puts Caitlin above a lot of our other characters just because there's so many very good enemy skill techniques for us to learn. And we now are at the battle arena where everybody has been shot dead. Can we not catch a break? Why does everyone need to die whenever we are around? And of course we are getting the blame for it, and we try to run away, but we eventually do get captured and thrown into this underground desert prison, which kinda sucks because apparently all the people that died in Gold Saucer were murdered by a man with a gun arm. So it's time to confront our boyfriend and hear what he has to say, because I don't think Bart would do something like this. And of course when we find him, he tells us more backstory about him and his ex-boyfriend, as if I even really care. But we do actually learn about how he loses his arm, and this cutscene's actually quite cool, you know? Considering it's using the blocky graphics, they still managed to get some really nice cinematic moments in, and luckily his boyfriend died, so we don't have to worry about him being an issue anymore. But apparently rumours are he's still alive, so we're gonna go find him, and I'm gonna go with Bart to make sure no funny business happens. And now we have a party of Green, Claude and Bart. I will be using Caitlin a bit more later, but at the moment she's kinda useless, so until we gain some of the important enemy skill materials, we won't be using Caitlin, but that's fine. We've got our really powerful boys here, and Fire 2, you can see there, is dealing a ton of damage. It uses a lot of MP, but that is definitely the best damaging move we have at the moment, and the fact that it hits everyone is just kind of crazy. And hey, Ice just leveled up, which is pretty cool. Okay, so Dine is still alive, but he is currently shooting my boyfriend in the face, so I'm not really too worried, and I feel like we should try and help fight him. And I'm like, Bart, don't worry, I'll protect you. And he's like, don't worry, Claude, this is my problem. I'll get rid of him myself. Because he's just a kind and considerate lover like that. I do really have a lot of feelings towards Bart, and I'm glad he has respected my wishes and murdered his ex-boyfriend, because then that way, you know, it means he will never ever come back and we can just live happily ever after. So thankfully Bart is doing a very good job at shooting him in the face. The two of them are just shooting each other back and forward, but we're clearly doing way more damage than he is. How are either one of them still alive after being shot this amount of times? I don't know. Bart got shot in the hand once and then had it removed, and now he just gets shot in the face several times and it's fine. And we even use Big Shot on him and explode his torso, but that's not enough to kill him either. So, you know, that's fun. He's now resorted to throwing mines at us, which is like, dude, come on. Like, we were lovers at one point. How have we got to this stage? But Claude is loving this. He's watching from the sidelines like, yes, do it. Kill him. You know, like the Emperor from Star Wars telling Anakin to murder Count Dooku. Do it. You know, it's very that energy for me. And the less people that can go for Bart, the better, because he's apparently very well sought after, you know. Steve and Tofu have had a flirt with him. His ex-boyfriend is kind of crazy, but I can tell there's still a bit of love there, so we're slowly getting rid of them one at a time. Maybe we'll have to get rid of Steve next. I wonder how we'll dismiss of Steve. You know, I feel like she's my next target. Maybe someone could help us out. in getting rid of her. I don't know, I'm saying too much, but Dyne is now defeated, but he's not actually dead yet. He's still alive, he's just been defeated in battle. But now we get this scene about Marlene, who just so happens to be Dyne's child, and Bart has been looking after her ever since, and now Bart is saying there's a reason to live. You have a daughter, she's still alive and she wants to see you, but Dyne is too far gone. He's done too much troublesome stuff in his life. And this scene is actually incredibly heartfelt. Like, all joking aside, the backstory of Bart is really powerful, and you see someone who is just unbelievably forgiving, unbelievably selfless, and really tries to do good for everyone. But no matter how hard he tries, he cannot save Dyne anymore. Dyne is too far gone. He's too far into the depths of his depression, and it kind of escalates to this moment here, where Dyne decides to finally take his life, leaving his best friend Bart behind, and his 4-year-old daughter Marlene, and the world itself. Wow, look, clouds on a chocobo, that's so cool. Look, we're riding around through the trees and on the rainbow road. This is so pretty. Oh my god, I love this game. It's just so happy and jolly and wonderful. Look at that, we're underwater now. Who would have thought we're underwater? And then, whoa, psychedelic caveler. Oh my god, now we're on the bridge going through into space. Oh my god, chocobos in space. What on earth is happening? Yes, we won, and we can now be free from prison because we rode a bird. And we also pick up the Ramu materia, which is quite nice, but that'll be for Vincent later on. And now we can go ahead and form our party of Caitlin, Bart and Claude, as it is time to learn some enemy skills. So, first one we have here is against this little tentacle monster. So we use Manipulate in order to cast Big Guard onto Caitlin. This is honestly the most broken piece of magic in this entire game. It comes in very handy. It basically gives us Protect, Shell and Haste. It costs a lot of MP, but you cast it once in a boss battle and you're good to go. We also learn Aqualung from this guy, and then head on over to this giant bird where we can learn White Wind, which means that we have another character that can deal healing magic to us, which is incredible. We don't have to rely so heavily on green anymore, as we have Caitlin to do that for us, which is very nice. White Wind again is a little bit expensive, but it's still a very powerful healing spell. During the process of this, we level up Lightning and Fire for Claude, which is incredible. He now has the level 2 black magic spells, and I just want to show you where we're at in terms of power levels. So here is Caitlin, and I'm going to test out one of her E skills, which is Aqualung, and I'm like, okay, it deals damage to all enemies, but I'm not quite sure how powerful it is. So these guys are just like random little tiny monsters. Like they're nothing too crazy. They do have like an instant death attack, which can be quite troublesome. But aside from that, like they're just designed to be like whatever enemies. So here's Aqualung. It's a water-based attack that deals damage to everyone, and it does 800 apiece to each character. Like that is absolutely insane. Caitlin is beyond broken at this stage in the game. So I'm going to try not to use her too often, but in boss battles especially, Caitlin will be the one. So let's head on over now to Gongaga, where we have this fight against Reno and Rude. And I'm very excited to see what Caitlin can do to these guys. They both have 2000 HP each, so they're nothing too crazy. And whenever you have Caitlin in your party, you want to make sure you start off the battle by using Big Guard. It just ensures that there is almost no way that you will die. It costs like 64 MP, which is insane, but obviously we're only going to be using it for boss battles. Most random battles, you know, you won't be needing something like Big Guard. You can just attack them until they die. And now that we have Big Guard on us, we can kind of just chill out. And I go ahead and use Bio to get poison on them. And that's very cool. Caitlin is doing everything that she has set out to do. She's using really cool techniques, poisoning the enemies, and just making our lives a whole lot easier. So I really do love Caitlin. And that says a lot, because usually when I play this game, Cait Sith does not end up in my party at all. Simply because he's just the worst character in the game. He's kind of a traitor. He's kind of just like a weird thing. Like, what is he? He's like a stuffed toy that rides another big stuffed toy. And it's quite confusing why he's in your party even in the first place. He just kind of follows you around. And yeah, it's a bit of a shame. But he does have some good moments later on in the story. But especially at this period in the game, if you're playing this for the first time, you'd be like, why is he even here? But hey, he's a mega powerful boy at the moment, so we're just using his basic attacks at the moment, and he obviously is not dealing too much damage at all because he's not a physical attacker, but we get the victory very, very soon. You only have to kill one of them in order to win the battle, hence why I didn't use Aqualung, as I felt like it would just be a bit of a waste, and I wanted to save his MP for White Wind, but we didn't even need it in the end. So that's that fight over, and we head on over here and pick up the Titan materia, which is a very, very cool Earth summon, which we will be giving to Bart later on. And then we also pick up the Death Blow materia, which we can immediately give to Tofu, and Death Blow is incredibly powerful. Not quite at this moment yet, but later on in the game when we get a very important piece of weaponry for Tofu, it becomes like a super powerful kit in her kit. What? Technique in her kit. That's what I meant to say, not kit in her kit. It's a technique in her kit. So here we have this battle against a giant grasshopper looking dude, and he can actually inflict stop on us, which is a little bit scary, but like I'm super powerful at this point, so I'm not feeling too scared. Claude has actually run out of MP, which is happens a lot. Now that he has the level 2 black magic spells, his MP gets drained quite quickly. And as you can see here, Stop has now been cast on Tofu as well, so it is down to Steve to finish this battle off, and Steve can't really do very much damage, so yeah, then the Stop web comes out on Steve, and we're all just sat here like, and then Claude comes out of the Stop. Luckily it doesn't last forever, otherwise that would have been a game over, and Tofu finishes the fight with a Death Blow. So looking pretty cool, but once again things can come out to surprise us, and we buy the Time materia, which we give to Goofy, so now she can start doing more thief stuff, and then we obviously give Titan to Bart. We're ready to move on now, but oh no, our car has broken down.
Oh, I feel so bad for you. Are you okay?
And it's time to stop off at Cosmo Canyon before we get it fixed, and this just so happens to be Green's hometown, and one of the most iconic places in the entire game. I love the vibes of this place, the music, the little huts, the sort of like Grand Canyon-esque scenery. Very, very cool. And here we meet Bugenhagen, who just so happens to be Green's sort of grandfather, and as far as I'm aware, Bugenhagen is just like a human, but he can just fly for some reason. He just floats around and has no legs. So that's cool, but here we are, and we're showing off some of the lovely graphics here to Bart, trying to impress him and show him how, you know, adventuring with me and being my boyfriend allows you to see all of this beautiful stuff. So it's all working towards getting Bart to love us, which is great. And then Bugenhagen decides to inform us about the life stream, and essentially in this game, when someone dies, their life energy gets transfused into something else and creates new life. Maybe you come back as a tree, and it's a very, very interesting concept. It's one that a lot of people believe in our world, sort of like the idea of reincarnation, being reborn into something new. You know, your energy never dies, it just gets transferred into something new, and the cycle of life continues. And it's very, very interesting how spiritual this game is, and basically the reason why Shinra are such a terrible group of people is because they are sucking the life stream out and using it as energy. So eventually there will be no life energy left, and plants will stop growing, people will stop being born, and we're already seeing the effects of that in the world. You know, every place we visited thus far feels a bit desolate and dead and dying, and that is all due to Shinra. But if they continue to do it, the world will crumble and end. So we now understand the world a bit better, we understand our intentions and Shinra's intentions, and I will say the world building in this game is absolutely phenomenal. And you start to understand the intentions of all of the parties that are involved in the story of this game. Shinra is simply trying to capitalize off of the resources that the planet has. Very similar to what we do in the real world with oil. And I think that's why this story is so important and necessary even to this day, because there are just so many parallels you can make with the real world, and I love it. I think the story in this game is absolutely incredible. Moving on to the Cave of Gi, and we pick up the added effect materia, and then we have this mini boss battle against this giant spider, and we're basically in this cave that is hidden within Cosmo Canyon to learn a bit more about Green's backstory, because he believes his father was a coward who left him as a child. But we are soon to learn that that was not the case, and Green is actually an ancient sort of species and the last of his kind, much like Steve. Much like Steve is the last of her race, Green is also the last of his. These names are really throwing me off. I'm finding it very difficult to remember what they're called, even though it is literally on the screen and I spent the entire game looking at them. But that's okay. This spider here does gravity damage to us, which basically puts us down to like 10% HP, which is kind of wild. But luckily his attacks aren't too strong, so we don't have to worry too much. But I say that, green does actually faint. So yeah, a little bit of a difficult battle here, and it happens towards the end of this cave after you've used up most of your potions and things. And you can see that I accidentally used a Phoenix down on Clod instead of green because, I don't know, I'm kind of stupid, I guess. This game isn't hard enough, so I just decided to make an extra challenge and waste some of our items and be a bit silly. So that was that fight, I guess. We end up using Blade Beam, and it does over 700 damage, which is pretty darn crazy, and we win the battle. But our MP is looking rather low, and we still have another boss battle to come. But before we get there, we do actually level up some Lightning, Ice, and Chocobo Lore materia, which is really nice. And then we have this terrifying monster, like, oh, what on earth is that? It's like a wall that has a face on it, but then when we go into the boss battle, it's actually this guy, and this guy is actually incredibly difficult. One of the hardest boss battles in the game, in my opinion. It's got 5,500 HP. And I thought we might get game over here because we're running really low on MP. And honestly, I was very scared at this point. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to defeat this. It takes us a very, very long
Death to all of them.
Oh, okay, he dies. You just throw a Phoenix down at him and he dies. Anyway, pick up the gravity materia before heading over to the end of the cave, where we learn a little bit more about Green, whose real name is actually Nanaki. And we find out that his father was actually a fearsome warrior who died trying to protect his village. So Green had this thought in his mind that his father was this terrible, terrible man, or dog, I suppose, that ran away from him and decided to leave him all alone, when in reality he is the reason that Green is still alive to this day. And we get the tears that fall down as if the ghost of Seto can sense that Green is nearby, and then he howls at him, and it's all very lovely and romantic. And it's nice that we get this bit of backstory from Green, because we don't really see or hear too much from him throughout the game. He's kind of a sub-character, so it's nice we get a bit of plot revolving him. But I think we're going to end the episode here. But we have accomplished a lot this episode. We've gained a new party member, Goofy, travelled to a new continent, learned some more things about our good friend Green, and most importantly, we have developed our love for Bart, and we are ready to see how this romance will flourish. Because, hey, let's be real, that's the real question on everybody's mind. We all know the story of Final Fantasy VII, but do you know the story of Clod and Bart's relationship? Because we're going to fabricate it, so look forward to that in the next episode. Special shout out to my Jamily members Hugo, Robbie Rose, Jury Lynn and Francis Couldan. Also super duper special thanks to my super jams, Panis Pusher, Alex Lazilla, Soul I, Jack B, N, Persephoroth and Docs Bateso. The members are growing every week and I'm so happy to see it. And again, if you want to become a member, then you can do so using the link in my description, or just head to my channel there and join. But that is all for today, folks. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name's been Jamsack. See you guys next time.